I was told to remind everybody that when you speak, if you could turn your microphone on, that would be great. I'm going to call the subcommittee work session to order of 10/4/22. Today, we have two bills that we're going to work through, HB 426, which we'll take first relative to shoreline septic systems, then SB 257, enabling municipalities to incorporate sewage disposal systems as part of the stormwater utility. This is a work session. It's not a hearing. If we need clarification and there's someone in the audience that could clarify or add to something, I'm told we can have that, but we're not taking testimony today. I want to thank Representative Spang. She passed out, everyone here should have it, a brief dissertation on shoreline septic systems. And I'm going to recognize her. She's going to speak briefly to her report here, which I have given and will go in the record. Representative Spang.
Okay, briefly, huh? Okay, we'll see what we can do here. Okay, this bill came right out of a 2-year shoreline septic system study commission that had about 20 people on it, very representative of municipalities, septic designers, environmentalists, the realtors, so we had a good understanding of how it was, any solutions we came up with would affect each one of those parties. And it was approved by the 20-member commission by everyone there but the realtors, and DES abstained. The problem is that there's a lot of pollution that is occurring because of underperforming septic systems in the shoreland zone. It's very hard to find which ones it is without infringing upon private property rights. We decided to try to inch toward how to make that determination. The first thing that would be obvious is the older ones. Before 1967, septic systems did not have to be approved by DES. So they're kind of wild cards. After that, then DES was looking at permitting them. So we knew that the ones that were most likely to be in failure were those that did not have state permits. And they could now be up to 50 years old. So you can imagine if they've been up to 50 years old and perhaps never pumped, never inspected, the houses that they are serving may have doubled and tripled in terms of the intensity of their usage. So that looked like a good place to start. So we began to then look at how we could get a handle on those, again, without infringing upon private property owners. And there have been several efforts put forward by lakes groups to do some heavy educational work of the property owners, getting volunteers out there to talk to them, and then contact the members on that, the people who own shoreland properties, on impaired water bodies that are particularly have blooms or of cyanobacteria, etc. Those turned out to be really successful. In some instances, like 13 out of 15 of the septic systems that were, or 20 septic systems that were examined with landowner permission turned out to be in failure. And then the volunteer group was able to get some state funding to help those property owners ameliorate their systems. In some cases, like on Babusick Lake, it was tremendously successful, and they were able to eliminate the severe cyanobacteria blooms that had happened. So we know that that is going to work, but that is clearly not going to work statewide. The only other time that the state can have any intervention is when a property exchanges hands. And already we say that you have to have an evaluation of the site to say, yes, the site can have a septic system that will serve the kind of property that you are, the house that you're thinking of putting up there. But that's as far as it goes. If there is a septic system there and the property is exchanging hands, there's no way to say whether that septic system is indeed in failure and is going to, or underperforming and is going to continue to affect the water quality under its new ownership. So it seemed that in addition to having an evaluation of the site to see if the land is capable of holding a septic system, we should also be requiring that the septic system itself should be evaluated. Now this, I think there was some concern about who's going to pay for this, and that, you know, there's a lot of negotiation around costs and expenses and who pays what when a property exchanges hands. There's a property owner, the seller pay for things like this? Does the buyer pay for things like this? Does the realtor help to pay for things like this? All of that can be worked out, even on an individual basis, just as long as the state is saying it has to be done. The result of it would not necessarily say that it would block the property exchange. It would just, but the report would go to the local code enforcement officer and to DES, so DES could see where these problems are. It was also seen as being a real boon to the property buyer. So he wasn't buying a pig in a poke. He wasn't buying a septic system where the seller said, see, there's nothing squishy on the back, it's fine, and then they find themselves having to rebuild their septic system. So it was really a protective thing for the property buyer and a big plus for the state of New Hampshire in terms of finding out which septic systems might be a problem. Now, it's certainly not all of them. It's only the ones that are exchanging hands, and it's only the ones within a certain distance to a water body, but it's a start, and it's one that the commission felt was very achievable. So that's where we are. That is how the bill came about.
Thank you, Representative. What I'd like to do is, since there's only 5 of us, go around the table for comments. Representative Glatling, would you like to speak on this bill?
I would, and just say that in our town, one of the reasons septics have come into discussion is that we are dealing with what people are perceiving as problems with short-term rentals, and concern that houses that are sometimes, shall we say, overpopulated may be stressing the septic systems. And so we're really cognizant of the problems because although we have a portion of the lakefront covered by an actual sewer system, and I'm lucky enough to be one of those, we have a lot of other portions of the lake that do not have a sewer system for them. And as you will remember from my Perkins Pondville, before that sewer system went in around the pond, there were latrines, and there were all kinds of really, really, really old, ineffective systems in place. And this Pond now, that it is a haven for short-term rentals, but fortunately, everybody there has to be on the sewer. But had we not done that, it would probably be overwhelming. Uh, so I would just say from our town, it's the short-term rentals have kind of highlighted the fact that we have many old systems and not really a good mechanism for taking care of them.
Thank you. Representative Healy?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, I talked to our town manager and the Kyle Fox, our Director of Public Works about this, and one of the things he said that they like to keep it local all the time. And the reason was, and I know you brought up Babusick Lake. Right now they are at $1,600 per year, with a state average for sewers is about $590. Merrimack, we pay $357. When they do this, I'd like to see the local people make that decision whether that's going to happen. In Amherst on Babusick Lake, they decided that that wasn't going to be, the town was going to pay for it. And if the local group wanted to do that, they did, and they did get together, and they got together and they decided to do that sewer system. But they brought it, the cost upon them, with them, on them themselves. So I still always say, let the towns decide on this, and let them make the decision whether they're going to go forward with that.
Representative Healy, I think we're talking about whether the septic systems need evaluation.
Yes, I know.
Okay, all right. Wasn't sure if you were
Hey, Kristen,
crossing over to the next
No,
one.
when she was
That's-
talking about, I was just covering up when she was saying that
Okay.
it was on Babusick Lake. They did, yes, there was, but it was costing over this.
Thank you. Representative Harvey Bolio.
I would like to hear from the others first.
They're not on.
Okay, they're just here.
They're just here to visit.
First,
I also-
subcommittee here. Yeah, okay.
It was suggested I remind those that are speaking, when you're done, button off so that you won't be taking up the sound waves.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering if we must have had commissions on how to handle failed septic systems in the past. Or have we? But I would like to see more of a study committee done, since this is a problem like everywhere. It's been a problem endemic, and I acknowledge the problem of failed septic systems. It is a big problem, and I really appreciate that the education worked, as Representative Spang was pointing out, how well it worked to address it directly to the homeowners. So, I mean, I would like to see that, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Representative Spang, you wanted to comment again?
Yes. In terms of we of course, we've already had a 2-year commission looking into this program, and this bill came out of that 2-year commission. And we tried every angle that we could in terms of how to look at it, and also the science behind how a septic system works, and alternative, innovative new ways of doing it. So we really looked over that pretty carefully. In terms of keeping it local, the municipalities are not now enabled by state statute to do anything about this. The towns of Meredith, I think one of the other towns, had tried to bring about some local controls over septic systems, and they were told that they did not have the statutory ability to do it. So then they went digging deep into their ordinances and into state statutes to find an alternative way of skirting around that problem, and they're trying to work with their building codes, their C of Os, but none of that is secure enough to put that forward as an approach that other municipalities could use. So essentially, one of the problems that brought about this commission was that municipalities do not have the ability to do this on their own. They need some state enabling statutes.
Thank you, Representative. My take on this is, I think it's a buyer beware. I think that I sort of go along with the remarks of the New Hampshire Board of Realtors, Association of Realtors. In this particular area, the 200 feet, or whether it's 200, 250, the assessment's done, but on all the purchase and sale agreements, the buyer has given the right to do more inspections, more reviews. Nobody's saying they can't ask to do it. So instead of mandating it, I think the ability is there. I'm not one for mandating this, and I had mentioned during our original discussions, I'm concerned that this could turn into what they have in Massachusetts, Title V. I think the ability to test the system, I agree that, yeah, it's a big expense if suddenly it fails, but the buyer can do this inspection. He can do the evaluation, and a lot of my buyers, because this is the field I'm in, they do have it evaluated to make sure they're not going to have this sudden drastic problem. They didn't need a law to say you have to. They just went and did it. And they absorbed the cost, so we're not worried about the cost because they said we'll absorb it for the large expenditure of buying a new home. So I'm not personally in favor of this bill. Does anyone on the committee, subcommittee wish to say anything further?
Add one thing, which is that in our town at least, many sales were taking place and inspections of any kind were simply ignored. And we also have a number of out of town, out of state buyers who really don't have a big commitment to, what they're doing. So that's just another aspect of where our concern came from.
Thank you. It was brought to my attention that what we're supposed to do as the subcommittee, we have two choices on motions: to recommend for future legislation or not recommend for future legislation. If none of the subcommittee members have anything else, I'll entertain a motion from someone either to recommend or not recommend future legislation.
If I, of course, I think that the problem is, there's in the buyer beware thing really resonates with me. You're going to buy anything without checking whether it's going to cost you a fortune to keep that car on the road or whatever. But in those instances, you're the only one who's going to be affected by whether you buy an inferior product. In this instance, if you buy an inferior product and you decide that you don't want to put in the money, or you don't even want to know whether your septic system is polluting your lake, it's not just you. It's everybody who lives along that lake who is paying the price for your having decided to turn a blind eye to this. There's nothing that says that if you buy a house with a bad septic system, that anyone is going to make you fix it. So it's not just, whether you're going to have to be putting in a lot of money to fix this. It's what the impact of your negligence is going to be on everybody else who lives along the lake. You could draw a parallel with having your car inspected. It's buyer beware if you buy a car that won't pass inspection. But why do we have a state program where everybody's car is inspected? It's because it affects everybody if your car is an unsafe car. It's the same situation here, where you can decide that as a buyer, you don't care whether your septic system is failing, but everybody else around that lake is going to pay the price.
Thank you, Representative. I'm still
Mr.
waiting
Chair?
on a motion.
Mr. Chair, I know I'm not on the subcommittee, but my understanding was that all members of the committee were invited to attend and participate in these, but we just couldn't vote. So that's, believe what the chair, Chair Renzullo, put in the email. But what I wanted to clarify a little bit is what the interim study, what it means. The bill is off the table. This bill is gone. So the motion to recommend for future legislation or not isn't necessarily this bill. It could be a small part of this bill. It could be to refine the definition of what a failed septic system is. It could be to just tweak stuff. And it's not anything that we have to totally decide today, but it could be, we recommend for future legislation because the statute isn't clear, blah, 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 in some area. So I just wanted to clarify, when you say not recommended for future legislation, you're talking about the issue of shoreland septic systems, not this particular bill. Because this particular bill is interim studied, which means this bill is dead. We would be recommending yes or no on any future legislation related to shoreland septic systems. Just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend this for further legislation. What I'm hearing from two of our members is that there's a desire not to take this approach, but to make it more local. And that would seem to me to be an exploration of how to enable municipalities to develop their own regulations relative to failing septic systems that are polluting their local lakes. And it seems to me that's something that it was brought forward very pointedly by the town of Meredith that was trying very hard to protect its water supply. But it seems to be that there are some, and I'm very big on local control also. So since that was the problem that was clearly identified by the commission and seems to have some resonance with the member of this committee, that we recommend that this be brought forward for future legislation to solve the problem from that direction.
Thank you, Representative. Do we have a second? Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Representative Spang,
Yes, this is a vote to recommend for future
Future-
legislation.
that
Yes.
was your motion, yeah. Representative Gotling?
Yes.
Representative Healy? Representative Harvey Bolia?
No.
And myself, the subcommittee chair, I vote no. So that motion failed. I'll entertain another motion.
I'm going to put a motion into not recommend for future legislation.
We have a motion by Representative Healy not to recommend, seconded by Representative Harvey Bolia. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. Representative Healy,
Yes. Yes.
Representative Harvey Bolia,
Yes.
Representative Spang,
No.
Representative Gottlieb. And myself, Representative Harb, yes. So 3-2, we will recommend to the full committee at executive session, not recommended for future legislation. Thank you. So that concludes our discussion on shoreland septic systems, HB 426. Moving on, SB 257, enabling municipalities to incorporate sewage disposal systems as part of their stormwater utility. Since we started the last time with Representative Spang for comment, I think I'll start this time with Representative Healy on my left. Representative Healy, do you want to comment on this bill, SB 257?
I'll comment a little bit on this. We in Merrimack just went through hiring an MS4 engineer for this specific system, our systems now, which is actually separate, so we don't really have to do too much. It's quite an expense to the towns, and again, the towns made the decision to make this, to hire this MS4 engineer. So I'm going forward with this. I would say the same thing, that I would rather that the towns make the decision on anything on any of all of this stuff. It ends up being that the engineer, this engineer makes anywhere from $75,000 to $100,000 a year. It was a ballot question also, so I want to keep it that way.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Harvey Bolia?
I agree with Representative Healy. I looked at this quite a bit. I did some background work. I guess there's a study happening right now in the Dover area to look at, it's like a pilot program that they're doing on their own to study this. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that. I think the bill needs some work. I'd like to see municipal. I'm wondering if it's really more suited in the municipal committee than ours. But it is it's fine if towns want to do it, but I certainly don't want to mandate it for everybody to get involved that way. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Gottlieb? We can jump over you and go to Representative Spang. Representative Spang.
I think that there is a problem with this bill because it's a little bit difficult to get your arms around in terms of there are a couple of or several components to it. One is it means that you have to understand how your utility works, like how our stormwater utility works. The stormwater utility basically says that whoever is responsible for creating the problem should have some responsibility for solving that problem at some level. There is not one single municipality to date that has adopted this. It would require the support of the whole municipality. It wouldn't be something where the state would be imposing this on any municipality. It is strictly by local choice. The second thing is, what is the problem that it solves? I think that perhaps it was Mr. Deers or Carolyn Russell who told us about situations where there was kind of a mini community where they were all in failure. And what do you do about that? Are you going to make every single one of those do an individual upgrade or replacement of their septic system, or can it be done collectively as a neighborhood? And if that neighborhood can plug into a municipal system with all these other neighborhoods where this is a problem, then the cost gets dispersed. And it becomes the septic's problem isn't just a problem of each individual property owner, but it becomes something that the community as a whole has decided that they want to do something for their water body as a whole, and they want to make it part of the whole tax base instead of it being something that an individual would be paying. Now, the third component is, and I think that this really raised some eyebrows, is the problem that we have in the Great Bay Estuary, where we have to do something at more than an individual septic system level to try to clean up the bay. And EPA is breathing down our necks to come up with some solution to these individual septic systems that are collectively causing a big problem. And I think that having this tool in place would help to reassure EPA that we're on the road to doing this. And once again, I would like to emphasize the word tool. It's not a mandate by the state, it's a tool that a municipality can take to deal with multiple septic system failures on individual properties. So I think that given that there's no mandate involved, that it's just enabling municipalities to take one approach, whether they like it or, then I think that we should get this moving along. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Gottlieb?
Well, I'm looking at who supported and who did not at our hearing, and DES definitely supported this bill, and as in our other bill, the realtors opposed, and the Dover City Council supported. And, you know, we talk about letting towns take the lead, but if they need permission to take the lead, we're sort of talking out of both sides, and we're not really being straightforward about what we really mean. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Representative. I agree with some of the subcommittee members that there is a problem with the nitrogen and the systems, but is this really the solution? I also seem to agree that if we put government back locally and the local people decide they wish it, maybe that's more appropriate than a mandate for everyone. So I'm sort of betwixt and between. I don't think the bill, as Representative Smith says, we're not really dealing with the bill that was presented. I don't think that solves the problem, but I do think that it is an issue that could use future study and work. So I likely would support a recommendation for future legislation so that the topic can be worked on and maybe made more local. So anything else from the committee members? So I'll entertain a motion from someone to recommend or not recommend for future legislation.
And just to clarify, so we would be recommending the idea of the bill for future recommendation, not the bill itself.
Not the bill itself.
Okay,
So basically, the concept
The
doesn't die.
concept
The
of it.
concept,
okay.
if I'm interpreting Representative Smith correctly. So, concept would live on, but it needs work. And we could support the concept of local control,
Oh, okay,
but for future legislation, not this bill.
okay. I would make that recommendation.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion by Representative Harvey Bolia to recommend for future legislation, seconded by Representative Healy. Any discussion on that motion?
Just what specifically are we recommending?
my understanding would be we're recommending future legislation that would relate to the, if I say it right, the nitrogen level in septic systems and local control.
Okay. I guess I'm not opposed to that.
So we don't kill the idea. We keep the idea moving with work. So that's the motion, the second. Any more discussion on it? Okay, so I'll call a roll. Representative Harvey Bolia,
Yes.
Representative Healy,
Yes.
Representative Gotling, Representative Spang,
Yeah.
and myself, Representative Harb. I vote yes. So that will go forward to the entire committee at the executive session on this bill, SB 257, recommended for future legislation. And I believe that concludes what we're here for today, and I thank you all for coming down on a sunny day. Hopefully it gets a little warmer. And we'll see you at the, unless anybody has anything else to say, we'll see you at the exec session that's already scheduled. So I call this session closed. Thank you.